اهم نوع من الفايبر هو الكولاجين. نيجي نطلع هون over here. This is a transmission electron microscope for the collagen fibers. How to identify that these are collagen fibers? The collagen is striated, banded. You're going to see a dark band, light band, dark band, light band, etc. This is because collagen is a birefringent structure. It can change the direction of the polarized light. فبتبين الفibers with this characteristic striated appearance on. The same thing over here, but this is a scanning electron microscope. بعطينا pseudo 3D structure. وبرضه أنا عندي هي هون striated appearance تبع الكولاجين. الكولاجين هو is the most abundant protein in your human body. الكولاجين very strong supportive for you. السيلز عادة اللي بتصنع الماتريكس أهمها هي الفايبروبلاست. Over here you see two electron microscope sections for a fibroblast. On the left at first, more clear. How to identify the fibroblast? Well, multiple characteristics. Number one, the shape of the cell is tapering or spindle shape. مغزلية الشكل. Number two, the nucleus is irregular, pale. بيقول كروماتين شوي فاتح, pale. Number three, the plasma membrane itself is irregular, multiple processes, multiple villi, tubodia طالعة منها. هذا دليل الأكتيفيتي. It's a branched cell. طالعة منها multiple processes, irregular plasma membrane. طبعا fibroblast, it will synthesize the whole components of the matrix, the collagen والground substance. والcollagen والاlastic fibers, etc. هي mainly proteinaceous fibers. فعشان هيك راح تكون السيتوبلازم فيه كل الاورجانيلز الكاركترستيك للبروتين سكريتنج سيلز. يعني راح تشوف كثير RER اكيد، راح تشوف جولجي كومبلكس كثير، وبرضه راح تشوف ميتوكوندريا. نفس الشيء هون بس less clear. Tapering spindle shaped cell with a spindle shaped nucleus, and the nucleus is irregular. But what do you have extra in this section وبساعدك؟ this. هدول الفايبرز هدول هم الكولاجين فايبرز. دائما الفايبروبلاست بتكون surrounded by the collagen fibers اللي افرزتهم قبل شوي. يعني these collagen fibers were secreted by this cell. Another cell in the connective tissue, it is the second most common cell, هي المacrophage. Let's start with the section on the right. The macrophage is a cell that can be easily identified. At first, the شايفين الشكل is not spindle. The nucleus is highly irregular, indented. Large nucleus and highly indented. Inside the nucleus you have multiple nucleoli. هاي هون في two nucleolus in the macrophage. زي ما شايفين النيوكليوس هل هي in the center of the cell ولا جاي طرفية بعض الشيء؟ Yeah, the nucleus of the macrophage is peripheral or eccentric. The cytoplasm, on the other hand, مليان هدول البلاك granules. These are lysosomes. طبعا الماكروفاج is a phagocytic cell. وظيفته تعمل phagocytosis, so you need a large amount of lysosomes. The rest of the macrophage من ايش مشتقة؟ It's derived from what? من monocyte, من blood monocyte. نفس الشيء هنا يمكن لسه clear شوي السكشن شاي كواليتي فيه بس irregular nucleus وحتى السيتوبلازم نفسه شو ماله irregular بكون زي هيك. النيوكليوس is eccentric مش بالطرف والبلاكش granules are lysosomes for the macrophage. Another cell in the connective tissue وانا تيجي تطلع بتشوف a very large rounded cell. The nucleus هون small rounded وcentral. لحديت الآن ما شفناش ولا أي nucleus rounded وcentral. والcytoplasm is filled with electron dense granules. This cell is the mast cell. This is the mast cell. الماست cell عددها قليل بالconnective tissue مش كتير. والجرانيولز اللي موجودين فيها هدول الالكترون دنس جرانيولز هدول شو بيحتووا؟ شو وظيفة الماست سيل؟ هدول الجرانيولز فيهم كيميكال ميدياترز بيطلعوا وقت الانفلاميشن. سمعتوا بالهستامين؟ هذا الخلية which produce histamine موجود inside these granules بالإضافة لأذر ميدياترز زي الهيبارين etc. البروستاجلاندين والليكوترين whatever. كلياته بيطلع during inflammation. نفس الشيء هون الخلية واضحة central nuclei محوطة بفيري a large amount of electron dense granules. الماست cell usually بتكون around the blood vessels in the connective tissue. لأنه الميدياترز اللي موجودين بهدول الجرانيولز they mainly affect the blood vessel itself. يعني الهستامين مثلا بيعمل vasodilation وبيعمل بيزيد الفاسكولار permeability وهو مسؤول عن كل السيمبتومز تقريبا تبع الانفلاميشن الإديما والريدنس والسترا etc. لانه الافكتس تبعونهم كله على البلد فيسل. نيجي لهون لايت مايكروسكوب، كالعاده بنشتغل سيستماتيك. قبل ما تروح على الكونكتيف تيشو تنطط اول شيء حبه لومن لاين باي ابيثيليوم دائما وابدا، مضبوط؟ شنو على الابيثيليوم اللي هون؟ What type of epithelium is that? الابيثيليوم pseudo stratified. How do you know? It's ciliated goblet cells والcells appear stratified multiple layer. بس احنا حكينا لكم last time there is no way to see goblet cells and cilia in a stratified epithelium. So this is obviously a pseudo stratified ciliated columnar. This epithelium is found in the respiratory tract. Below the epithelium over here دائما تحت الابيثيليوم we have connective tissue. The connective tissue اللي underlie the epithelium always بيكون نوعه loose. It's a loose connective tissue. تحت الابيثيليوم of the tracts you will always find loose connective tissue. ودائما بتسميه lamina propria. فالlamina propria هي loose connective tissue that underlie the lining epithelium of the tracts. شو معنى loose؟ loose connective tissue يعني قليل الفايبرز وكثير الخلايا, a lot of cells. Minimal amount of fibers and matrix and a large amount of cells. Well, actually you can see that clearly. We have a large amount of cells scattered close to each other, clusters. وبتوين them هذا البينكش هذا هو الكولاجين. الكولاجين مش عامل very thick bundles في spaces between the collagen. فلوس connective tissue هون والله بنيجي بنأشر لك على أي سيل من هدول. شو ال most common cell in the connective tissue? The cell which synthesizes the collagen, fibroblast. If we pointed to any nuclei هون بتحكي this is most probably a fibroblast. It is the most common cell in the connective tissue. شو second most common? Macrophage. So it's either a fibroblast or to a lesser degree it might be a macrophage, but mainly it is a fibroblast. Let's look over here. هذا. What separates between the epithelium and the connective tissue? Is the lamina ولا basement membrane? شو نسمي هذا؟ شو البيزمنت membrane؟ شو البيز اللامينا؟ Why? مظبوط. Why you call it basement membrane? Excellent. This is a light microscope. In the light microscope you see the whole basement membrane. If you want to separate it into basal lamina and reticular lamina, you have to bring an electron microscope. But this is the basement membrane. يعني هون بنشوف two basal lamina and the reticular lamina. Over here نيجي نطلع على هذا. This is very characteristic section. وخلص لازم تعودوا حالكم على هذا الإيمج. Do you know what mesentery is? Mesentery هو عبارة عن thin membrane that surround the intestine. بالعربي بيسموه المصاديق. شعر رقيق حوالين الانتستين. الميزنتري is very thin. Histologically we can use it how? You take the membrane in a specimen from an animal. You directly spread it. There is no need for sectioning, there is no need for anything. It is very thin, the light can pass through it easily. You directly spread it on the glass slide and you stain it and you will see this. So this is a mesentery, we call this technique a spread section, direct spread section for the mesentery. The mesentery mainly is composed of loose connective tissue. نيجي نطلع هون. Loose connective tissue it has a minimal amount of fibers, correct, but it also contains all the types. يعني not a lot of fibers, but all types of fibers can be found in the loose connective tissue. So what do we have here? The pinkish bundles, these are the collagen. The dark ones, the branched هدول will connected with each other, these are the elastic fibers. These are the elastic fibers. راح تحكوا لي وين الريتيكولر؟ الريتيكولر is minimal كثير صغير كثير صغير. It doesn't appear بهذا الزوم. You have to zoom a little bit more عشان تشوفه. So what you have in here is the collagen bundles and the elastic fibers. The cells over here, والله we pointed in any nuclei once again شو بتحكي لي؟ This is probably what? A fibroblast. طبعا الميزنتري هو البرايم اكزامبل على اللوس كونكتيف تيشو. نيجي هلا هون للوايت تيشو سبيسز اللي ضلت موجوده. شو هاي الوايت تيشو سبيسز؟ شوف in your body there is no space. There's nothing empty in our bodies. This is yes, excellent. These spaces are filled with the ground substance. But during sectioning, the ground substance will be dissolved and it will appear as a white space instead. The same thing, a spread section for the mesentery. You can see the elastic fibers clearly. You can see the cells, the fibroblasts. But the collagen bundles you cannot isolate them. بكونوا بالbackground one and this technique is not very clear. Also, a spread section. The thin fibers هم elastic fibers. هاي pointer عليهم هنا وهون. The elastic fibers. The thicker bundle in the background هم الcollagen. The thicker bundle in the background are the collagen fibers. The cells are mainly fibroblasts. But what do you see over here? Some larger cells with a central nuclei and a large amount of granules, dark cytoplasm. This is what? This is the mast cell. Interesting here انك تشوف الكونتراست بين الماست سيل والفايبروبلاست. الماست سيل is a very large cell, it's a huge cell. طلع قد ايه اكبر من الفايبروبلاست in comparison. وزي ما حكينا mainly central rounded nuclei و large amount of granules. Once again هون الزوم عالي. What do you want here هي السيل هون. What type of cell of that؟ برضه ماست سيل. Rounded nucleus with huge amount of granules. Basophilic granules in the cytoplasm. درست بالثيوري إنه الماست سيل الجرانيولز تبعتها بين بتصبغ basophilic. But it also have a very unique characteristic اللي هي metachromagia. Metachromagia or metachromatic, it means it's able to change the color of the stain. To change it from blue to red. ده في هاي الاريا مبين صاير عم بيصير تحول. لكن بقية الجرانيولز اللي هون مش عارف ليش عم بيصير تحول. بس نعرف إنه this is a mast cell. والجرانيولز طبعا بأي ماست سيل they might be metachromatic. بيحولوا لون الفينيل بلو for example الفينيل بلو لردش. Again the cell هون شو هي؟ mast cell clearly. Okay ولا تعال نيجي نطلع هون بس. See a mast cell without a nucleus. Do we have an anucleated mast cell? طب شو التريك؟ شو حكينا دائما التريك؟ Yes, السكشن. The level of the section يمكن النيوكلياي تكون لجوا أكثر أو لبرا أكثر. لما أخذنا السكشن. الماسل زي ما حكيت لكم موجودة دائما around the blood vessels. This is a small blood vessel. It's surrounded. لأنه الميدياتors which are secreted by the mast cell, الهستامين and etc. Their main effect is on the blood vessel. Over here we have a muscle cell. لسه ما خدتوش الماسلز. بس يعني just to know. الماسل السكيليتال ماسل شكلها striated برضه. في لايت باند وفي دارك باند. في لايت باند وفي دارك باند. كيف الكولاجين بين striated بس بالإلكترون مايكروسكوب. The skeletal muscle it will appear striated in the light microscope وإن شاء الله راح تاخذوه in the future in more details. Over here والله بنيجي بنطلع شايفين إحنا clusters of cells. السيلز هدول هل هم ماسل؟ لا. بيشبهوا الفايبروبلاست but wait الخلايا is not tapering. واثنين النيوكليوس هون is pale وفيها زي كتل كروماتين. هذا السكشن أنا it's not very clear. خليني أرجع له هلا بس أول شيء بدي السكشن هذا next هذا أوضح. نيجي هون another clusters of cell بدنا هاي شايفين هاي this cell is the plasma cell وهذا السكشن is highly characteristic للبلازما cell. البلازما cell هي واحدة من the most identified cell in the body. It's easy to be identified. واحد طلعوا characteristic المميزة لها. Number one the nucleus is rounded وعلى periphery eccentric. The nucleus شايفين الكروماتين inside. The chromatin inside is arranged زي ساعة الحائط clock face appearance. Correct? Above the nucleus بالcytoplasm في شوي منطقة أفتح باللون clear area. The clear zone هون هاي المنطقة that contains large amount of Golgi. الجولجي okay juxtanuclear Golgi or supranuclear Golgi. الجولجي doesn't stain with hematoxylin and leucine فهذه النيجاتيف ايمج تبعته على بالسكشن فوق النيوكلياي clear area. The remaining of the cytoplasm لا بصبغ basophilic it contains large amounts of RER. شو وظيفة البلازما سيل؟ Yeah, it produces antibodies. Excellent. You see here a large amount of a plasma cell. So you deduce what? This is an inflamed tissue. والinflammation هذا شو؟ chronic ولا acute inflammation؟ إمتى تطلع البلازما؟ لا. إمتى؟ بالchronic ولا بالacute inflammation تطلع البلازما cell أكثر؟ Common sense, come on. Definitely the chronic. Chronic يعني مزمن. احنا بنحكي لك هون this produce antibodies يعني there was time to recognize the foreign body and to form a memory about it to start producing antibodies. For large amount of plasma cell usually indicate a chronic infection or mainly بيكون viral infection. Viral. The antibodies are mainly directed toward viruses. On the section to the right the same thing وهون zoom احنا للcharacteristic نيجي على هاي اللوك of the plasma cell. Peripheral nucleus with the clock face appearance. Above it الأماكن اللي عليها pointers the clear zone the juxtanuclear Golgi apparatus zone or supranuclear The remaining of the cytoplasm basophilic large amounts of RER. طبعا we need a large amount of RER. ما الانتيبودي هو عبارة عن بروتين. It's a protein, immunoglobulin. البلازما سيل مش هو مشتقات. من وين جاي؟ No, monocyte macrophage. B أيوة. B lymphocyte, that's right. Okay, it's derived from a B lymphocyte that migrated into the tissue and differentiated into plasma cell. السكشن قبل هو same thing but not very clear. يعني يمكن هون شوي more clear تحت نشوف السمول بلازما cell with the nuclei at their clock face appearance. هون but يعني at least you can know from this tissue this is also an inflamed tissue with large amount of plasma cell. نيجي هلا هون. This is obviously a connective tissue. Bundles اللي هون collagen. هون عم شفت bundles of collagen. Bundles. There is no فيش تباعد بين الفايبرز. معناته this is not a loose connective tissue. This is a dense connective tissue. فإذا أول شيء you judge by the collagen. Bundles of collagen means it's dense, not loose. In dense you have two choices. It's either dense regular or dense irregular. هذا irregular طبعا. The collagen bundles are not parallel. They are in all direction. Where can you find the dense irregular connective tissue? Remember, yes, common sense إنك تشوفه بالdermis of the skin. This tissue can resist tension from all direction, and you need this in the skin. So the skin can resist tension from everywhere. Also, you can find it in the capsules. The capsules that surround the organs, that surround the joints, برضه بيكون dense irregular connective tissue. Over here, in the middle, you see large cells mainly empty. On the periphery, very peripheral nucleus. شكلها زي الرينج زي ختم السرتير signet ring. This is the adipocyte, the adipose cell. Each adipocyte تحتوي على one large lipid droplets. والlarge lipid droplet هذه single droplet عملت pushing للnucleus extremely peripheral وبينت زي هيك. Over here, bundles of collagen على طول شو بحكي؟ dense. Regular ولا irregular? Irregular, right? Okay, in different directions. أي هون والله collagen زي هيك. هون الكولاجين ليش بين دوائر؟ بكل بساطة يا عرضي cross section هون اجى ايش في كولاجين رايح anterior لقدام اوكي او transversely فدنس irregular حكينا الارياز اللي بنشوف فيها here dense regular connective tissue كل البنكش هذا هو collagen bundles بيصبغوا بالاياسين they are in one direction شو السيلز اللي بنشوفها between the collagen fibers هذول؟ شو الخلية اللي بتصنع الكولاجين؟ It is the fibroblasts. But in case of dense regular connective tissue, the fibroblasts will become resting. خلاص ما ضلش collagen وضل في space في tissue. It's filled with collagen, so the fibroblast will be resting. It will transform into a fibrocyte. This is the question stage, the resting stage of the fibroblast. Does that mean إنه خلاص it will never revert back to fibroblasts ولا can it? It can. It can. In case of injury, in case of trauma, the cell can revert back into a fibroblast shape and start producing collagen again. In this regular connective tissue, this is a poorly vascularized connective tissue. There is no blood vessels in here. A very, very minimal amount of blood vessels. Where can you find the dense regular? طبعا هنا الcollagen is in one direction. That means it can only resist tension from one direction. So common sense راح يكون بالtendons وراح يكون بالligaments. بالtendons وبالligaments. Due to the little amount of blood vessels, this tissue has a poor regenerative power. You can see that حقيقة بالسبورتس كثير. أما والله soccer player ولا basketball player تعرض لإنجري in a ligament or a tendon, the recovery time is massive. بعد 6 months, 8 months, 1 year to get back. السبب من ذلك هو poor regeneration for the tendons and ligament. What's the reason for poor regeneration? 1, poor vascularization. 2, most of the cells are in the fibrocyte state and it takes time to revert back into the fibroblast state. Yes. Over here, collagen bundles, dense, regular or irregular? Regular ولا regular. مش ضروري الريجولار يكون straight. الريجولار اللي ترك انه parallel. That's it, in one direction. يعني هون they are wavy, okay, but they are still all parallel. Honestly, most of the time, this is what you're going to see. You're not going to see straight collagen bundles. You're going to see wavy collagen bundle, undulating, بنسمي هذا المنظر. Wavy collagen. But this is definitely regular. Regular يعني equals parallel, not straight. أهم شيء إنهم يكونوا in one direction. Over here, this is a new tissue. يجي والله بنطلع. في fibers, blackish, very thin. الفايبرسونز كأنهم they formed compartments غرف networks. Inside the compartments you have multiple cells. This is a network-like tissue, a frame-like tissue. Who does this? Is the reticular fibers that this. This is a reticular connective tissue. Reticular means network or a framework. The reticular connective tissue, it forms the framework of the lymphoid and soft organs in the body. اللي هم الليفر، اللي هم السبلين، الليمف نودز والبون مارو. فاحنا زي ما احنا شايفين هون الارز مأشر على الريتيكولار فايبرز. الريتيكولار فايبرز عامله كومبارتمنتس، جوا الكومبارتمنتس هون في خلايا الاورجان نفسها. يعني هذا السكشن فور اكزامبل فروم ليمف نود، هون جوا الكومبارتمنتس هذه we have the lymphocytes. بس شايفين البوينترز مأشر على الفايبرز that's correct، بس في اماكن in the fiber where you can see some dilatation. right ولا مين بيحكي؟ In the fiber you see some dilatation, some certain areas شو بيكونوا darker. This is the cell that synthesizes the fiber. Who synthesizes from fibroblasts. The reticular fibers هم عبارة عن modified type of collagen. صح؟ مش هيك أخذت بالثيوري؟ شو collagen type شو؟ 3 reticular is collagen type 3. الخلية اللي بتصنعه لازم يكون في fibroblasts تصنعه. وين الفايبروبلاست؟ on the corners على الفايبرز بتشوفوا some darker cells. هاي وهاي. هذول هم الفايبروبلاست. modified fibroblasts we call them reticular cells. فالبوينتر بيأشر على reticular fibers correct بس mainly على الخلية اللي بتصنع الفايبر الموجودة هون which is the reticular cells a modified fibroblasts. The reticular fibers انتم شايفين صبغوا dark color blackish why they love the silver stain. They are argyrophilic structures. They stain with silver nitrate blackish due to their heavy glycosylation. مليانين sugar بيحبوا صبغة السيلفر. Same thing مش كتير clear unfortunately but you can see dark fibers عاملة network عاملة compartments. جوا الكومبارتمنت زي ما انت شايف عايشة ايش cells جواتها خلايا الأورجان. Reticular connective tissue found either in the lymph node, in the liver, or in the spleen or in the bone marrow. This one is in the liver. How to know that? You see هذه large circle اللي بالنص. الليفر each liver lobe بيحتوي على central vein جوا and you will study that in the future. required منك انك to know انه this is a reticular connective tissue only. But هذه specifically بالliver. هذا يعني this is one of the most famous histological sections in the world. فيش حدا بيدرس histology و fail to identify this famous section. تعال شايفين you see over here this is the wall, this is a blood vessel, this is the aorta. What we did here is that we took a section from the wall of the aorta and this is what appeared to us. فهذا السكشنز هون اللي بين the rainbow different colors هو sections in the wall of the aorta. The wall of the aorta is composed of elastic connective tissue. It makes sense. You need the wall of the blood vessel to be able to stretch and recoil. You need a large amount of elastic fibers. In the wall of the aorta زي ما انت شايف في 3 different colors. أول شيء the black lines, the black folded lines هذول they are ايش the elastic fibers. Large amount. Between them you can see 2 colors. Some areas بتبين reddish و pinkish بس بتطلع هون مثلا في بعض areas بتبين شوي أقرب على bluish أو greenish, right? This lovely stain is called the Mason trichrome stain or the Mallory trichrome. The trichrome stains stain 3 different structures with 3 different colors. The black color, as we said, for what? Elastic fibers or elastic lamella, as we call it. The pinkish color, the reddish color, is smooth muscle. It's not the collagen. It is not the collagen in this stain. The pinkish and the reddish color is the smooth muscle cells in the wall of the aorta. The green or the bluish color, this is the collagen. So please don't get tricked. In Mason trichrome stain the collagen greenish or bluish. So the pinkish or reddish, smooth muscles. In this section, as you can look as much as you want, you will not find a single cell. There is no fibroblast. So then, who does synthesize the elastic fibers, the black elastic fibers and the greenish or the bluish collagen fibers? They are synthesized by the smooth muscle itself. فهون الاكستراسيلولار كومبوننتس صنعت من السموث ماسل. نوع الكولاجين فايبرز in the wall of the aorta هو برضه reticular collagen type 3 mainly to a lesser extent collagen type 1 بس mainly collagen type 3. So that's it. Yes.